to NASSCOM Technology and Leadership Forum 2024. I'm Anisha Nair Dhawan. Today we're finding out from technology leaders what is going to be the impact of Gen AI on lives, on businesses now and in the future. I'm now joined by Noshir Kaka, Global Technology Practice Lead, McKinsey. Thank you so much, Noshir, for joining us. What is the big theme in the industry these days, especially with Gen AI creating all the buzz that it is?
Thank you, Anisha. It's wonderful to be back here with NASSCOM and in a new venue. It's really interesting. So I'd say on the industry, two things. One is it's actually a very uncertain period for the industry. And I think actually growth rates are under incredible pressure. We're seeing that in large deals. We're seeing that in client segments that we are speaking of. So I think growth is actually going to be a big challenge for the year, probably more than most people actually forecast. Now, coming to some of the hot topics of the year, you mentioned one, which is Gen AI. I think the thing about Gen AI is it's a double-edged sword. So number one, Gen AI opens up new opportunities for the industry. So for example, personalization, or as you and I were talking about video, we just saw over the weekend how you can completely redefine how you actually create a video. So those are going to be net new opportunities. At the same time, we're seeing enormous productivity gains from the application of Gen AI in pilots. Nobody's as yet scaled that to actually production grade, but in pilots, we're seeing enormous productivity lift. You combine the two of that, which is you've got growth on one side and you've got a dramatically opportunity to optimize your cost structure. So it's a very exciting time for the industry overall. But I must say there are some caveats in the sense that what we actually believe is that it's going to get a lot harder to get the real gains in business from Gen AI than most people are saying. So why is it a double-edged sword? You may go out and price Gen AI productivity into your large deal, but you may not actually see it. And as a result, you'll see your margins going down.
Why is that happening? You're saying the Gen AI hype doesn't live up to its actual deliverables? Are you saying Gen AI is just about pretty pictures and impressive presentations and little else?
I think you're seeing the very first iteration of the generations of Gen AI. There's no doubt Gen AI is a foundational change in technology, one that probably humankind has few in the past to actually look at. Having said that, none of these technologies ever move at the speed of technology. They move at the speed of humans. And the human change that Gen AI forces, because you have to completely change the way you work, completely change the way you're organized, your operating model, that's actually going to limit the space at which this grows. So the technology can go much faster than humans, and most of us are projecting that into our financials. That's where the discrepancy is going to come.
Yeah, but people believe that this is something that is going to touch a whole lot of people, and it's going to be very different from the previous technology disruptors. So why should the human element be a constraint? Don't you think that will just amplify its adoption and usage in the years to come?
Not from what we are seeing. So for example, when you do a focused pilot and you train people to use the technology well and you provide them the change management and other support, you see massive lifts in productivity. You see massive experience changes. People just like working because they've removed the manual boring stuff. The minute you take it from that pilot to the rest of the organization, you see massive resistance. Why is that? As a junior developer, I'm actually worried about my job, right? As the organization of the company, maybe I have to actually organize my company differently because I've got several roles now that don't need doing what I used to do, and plus new ones that should be doing things. So I think that's where the inertia occurs. It's always the case. So we're going to see a lot of hype around this. We're going to see a lot of excitement, possibly some disappointment, at least in the short term, and then a significant pickup in the medium term.
So what do you think are the 3-4 most exciting growth areas using Gen AI capabilities in the industry?
So I think when we look at Gen AI for the tech services industry in particularly, we see 3 categories of use cases. So one is brand new. So for example, personalization. As you and I were talking, we can actually create a video image for ourselves or for, just from text, or without shooting anything today, as you can read from Sora and others. But what you can actually see is net new opportunities. Personalization. I can today customize an ad copy message to an individual consumer, which I could never do before Gen AI. So that's net new. We think that's about $60 to $70 billion of net new TAM at least. We are excited equally about $120 to $140 billion of TAM, which is re-engineering existing service lines. So let's say you were doing claims management, or you were doing something like engineering in automotive, right? Each of those will have a massive GenAI component. It's not changing the business outcome, but you have a significant change in the way you'll deliver that because of GenAI. So you'll reimagine your existing, your new offerings. You'll have some net new offerings. And then third is your core. Now your core, which is your annuity base, is going to come under massive attack. Because if you think about your legacy infrastructure or your legacy code bases, which I couldn't touch historically for economic reasons, I can now actually access them and change that with GenAI because coding has become so much more productive.
But do they sink in? What you want to do is very new, but your legacy systems, do they support this kind of computation required? And do they sink in that easily?
So the tech is there. The data is often a challenge on this. The method of actually doing this with companies is a big challenge, and as I said, the people is the single largest challenge. That will remain. But nonetheless, the opportunity set of attacking the core, developing the next generation of the new, and rethinking completely new service lines is going to add a significant amount of opportunity for our industry.
So within the Gen AI, technology itself, you see growth being significant. You said, all over technologies facing some growth challenges, but will Gen AI be an outlier?
So historically, what we've seen is technology as a share of GDP across geographies is always growing, right? So even in downturns, we see technology, the investment in technology continuing. Obviously, this year is going to be different. We're seeing a significant pullback in discretionary spends from enterprises. So you are going to see a slowdown in actually enterprise tech spending, right? Absolutely, a slowdown in the growth rate of that. So through that, there is going to be a pullback on some of the run areas, as we call them. We see generative AI, along with other areas, actually standing out as areas where CIOs, CTOs, CEOs continue to make that investment. So yes, there will be investment in generative AI. It most likely will be because you've taken out expenses or cost or investment in other areas.
All right. 2024 and beyond, what is the evolution of Gen AI going to look like, and what is going to be its impact?
I think you've got to start thinking about technology services in a very different way, let's say in the medium term, not the immediate next year, because as I said, people are likely to get more disappointed with this in the very short term. But if you look at the medium term, I think you can see 2-3 very different changes. For example, if you look at the base of developers over the world, only 11% of them can do what is called a code review. That simply is you actually review somebody else's code as opposed to writing the code yourself. Now with Gen AI, you need more of those code review skills. So there's a fundamental change in actually the human and talent proposition and what skills you're going to develop in the workforce.
The code reviewer is going to review the code done by the Gen AI.
Yes. That's why, in fact, today when you look at Gen AI experiments and pilots, you see junior productivity actually going down with Gen AI, not going up, right? So that's one thing.
But you created new code reviewers, right? You need the new code reviewers.
Yes, and that'll take time to train up the 11% to 60-70% in the industry.
Maybe the junior developers will find an opportunity.
That will absolutely be the case. So that's the one thing, right? Which is actually the skill sets. The second is how companies are organized. For example, you're going to have companies who are deep into engineering and some that just assemble. Right? And that's a new business model, right? Where you can think of actually assembling on top of a platform or with other ecosystems. So we're going to see actually quite a few changes in the medium term as a result of this technology, but even beyond this technology because the industry is maturing.
And let's hope it lives up to this hype in the medium term and the long term. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Nisha. Very nice talking to you.